Welcome to worship service. I think everybody's muted that needs to be muted. So we will begin.
Thank you, David. Good morning, everyone. As we approach Earth Day, I welcome you to a virtual Sunday service of Paint Branch Unitarian Universalist Church. Whoever you are, however you identify yourself, wherever your ancestors came from, wherever you are on your personal life's journey, you are welcome here. Whether you logged in on your iPhone, your Android, your desktop or laptop, thank you for joining into this online worship service. Before we move into worship, I will review some things you need to know about worshiping by Zoom. Please find the mute button, an icon that looks like a microphone, and make sure you are muted. Be sure to find and open your chat screen. The bubble for your chat screen is in different places depending on what kind of device you're using. In chat, please say how many people are in attendance on your connection and indicate 1 if it is just you. Chris McCann will be collecting this information. If you're visiting us for the first time or the second time, please identify yourself in chat and provide contact information there if you're willing to be contacted. We are delighted to see new people and folks who are returning to join us in our Sunday worship services. Our minister, Rachel, would like a chance to say hello, but the receiving line is not happening these days. If you are willing, please send a quick email to minister@pbuuc.org and let her know you are here. After the service today, we will have coffee hour breakout rooms. Stay on Zoom and you'll be grouped randomly with several other participants to enjoy some time for socializing. I have a few announcements. The Social Action Committee recommends the Laurel Advocacy and Referral Services, known as LARS, as a recipient of donations. LARS provides safe housing to prevent evictions, a food pantry, life-saving medication refills, utility payments to keep lights on, cleaning supplies, motels to families when shelters are full, groceries for seniors, and much more. You can send donations to LARS at 311 Laurel Avenue, Laurel, Maryland, 20707. Please write COVID-19 Relief Fund on the check memo line. You can refer to the continuum announcement for an online link and additional information about LARS. The budget leadership team invites community comments on the budget Tuesday, April 21st at 7:30 till 8:30. You may have heard that based on projected income of less than $375,000 for fiscal year 2020-2021, Paint Branch will have about $50,000 less than projected minimum expenses. This is a call to share with the BLT what your priorities are. If you want to share your ideas, please email blt@pbuuc.org and the BLT will send you a Zoom invitation. Today, our second to the last live online auction event will happen at 4 o'clock with Chalice dancers and Renee Katz singing. You can log on at 3:30 to socialize, ask questions, or get help keeping a Zoom window and the auction catalog open at the same time. Please see this week's continuum for detail. If you are the winner of any auction items and you prefer not to make your payments online, please send an email to auction@pbuuc.org to let us know you are sending your payment directly to the church. This will allow us to credit your account and maintain accurate revenue records in auction website reports. Now, let us enter into worship. Diana?
Good morning. I'm Diana McFadden, member of Peer at Paint Branch, joining from my home here in Greenbelt, Maryland. Everything for me is sacred, beginning with earth, but also going to things made by man or woman. This includes words, so here I share the words of a friend of mine who is an experienced hiker and mountain climber. He has hiked and bicycled through rugged, unmarked, remote lands in harsh, dangerous conditions. During a recent visit, he shared an insight with me that it is not the speed at which one moves or travels that matters nearly as much as the direction. Thank you.
If you have a chalice at home, feel free to light yours now as I light mine. But please don't unmute your Zoom while you are invited to say the words along with me at home. We light the chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind, the helping hands, the loving heart, and the radiant spirit. Encendamos este caliz para celebrar el Unitarismo Universalismo. Esta es la iglesia de la mente abierta, de las manos amigas, del amor, del corazón y del espíritu radiante. Chris?
Hi, I'm here. Something a little weird just happened, but I'm here. Good morning. I'm Chris McCann. I am your religious educator. Today, hi, I'm seeing people waving. I'm glad to see you all. Today's service is about exploring the sacred, and sacred is a hard concept for me. I understand what it is here, but it's hard for me to talk about. And so I sort of did a little reverse engineering to talk about how Sunday mornings at Paint Branch are sacred for me, and the things that happen at Paint Branch that put me in a sacred space. And it starts with sometimes I will meet some of our congregants in the parking lot and walk with them to the door. And if you're one of those congregants, you know who you are. And that is sacred time for me. because it makes me slow down in the blur of a Sunday morning and remember why we are actually here. Even as staff, we're not here to just do our jobs. We're here to create community. And I also think about the time that I spend with our children at Paint Branch and the sacred space that I occupy when I'm with them. Their joy, their sadness, their wiggles, their exuberance, their wisdom. I think that my primary job with our children is to love them no matter what. And the space that that puts me in is to remember to love everyone no matter what. And the work that people do to love me no matter what. It's my job to see their loveliness, and sometimes with our kids, as with everyone else, the loveliest they might be able to manage in any given minute is to hang their head and grunt and have body language that suggests that they're not really engaged. That's not about me. That's just about where they are in the moment. We all go through that. And it reminds me that there are people in my life that believe that I am lovely, even when the loveliest I can manage is to disengage. And so I thank you all. I hope that you can consider what is sacred to you today. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Now let us join our hearts and minds in a time of prayer and meditation. As we gather in community, we carry with us life's hurts and joy. Sometimes sharing these joys and sorrows in community can help. Now, while we listen to Diana McFadden play her cello, I encourage you to submit your joys and sorrows by entering them into the chat. Diana will be playing Country Gardens, a traditional folk tune collected by Cecil Sharp. Diana? take a moment to acknowledge all that has been shared, as well as those joys and sorrows that remain unspoken and yet are on our minds and in our hearts. May we hold all these and one another in love and kindness so that this congregation may be a source of strength and courage, comfort and hope in the days and weeks ahead. Cary.
Good morning. I began to think and plan about sharing what is sacred in my life. I was busier. I look forward to sharing a place or an ideal that I uphold, something that lights my way forward. And I'm thankful for that rest from that previous pace to recalibrate. So many things seem critical and times are good, but at this moment, many things I considered sacred or threatened, and I'm paring down what I can maintain in a new day of compromise. I recognize that uninterrupted access to toilet paper ranks high for many, now that after watching the stores. But aside from the daily grind, in trimming my list of sacred privileges and practices, I'm holding on, however, to personal contact as sacred. And I hold that personal contact as a channel to my most unassailable sacred truth is sacred. I still allow myself to feel provoked when I'm deprived of truth. I also recognize that I'm privileged to expect truth while so many people scramble to maintain their sacred safety. 2 Sundays ago in the Washington Post, author and religious news service columnist Sarah Isabella Burton accused that American leadership and many Americans hold business and our economy as a civil religion and sacred. That doesn't seem so cynical if our economy serves as a proxy for our safety, thanks to our stable currency, cheap food, and police protection of the safe housing that many of us here enjoy. Some paradigms of psychology hold that safety is critical for peace of mind. I feel privileged to expect safety in return for patiently addressing sacrifices. And sometimes I've enjoyed noticing how sacrifices help me recall who I want to be. Recently, these sacrifices include the reasonable, like wearing face masks and obeying traffic signals, for instance, and dubious others, like accelerated privacy encroachments and limiting my travel bucket list, and tolerating the various threats that governments conjure to inspire fear. So in my quest for truth over the years, I was once inspired by Rene Descartes' intention to clear his mind as well as possible, to begin thinking anew with only truth as sacred. Like Descartes, my effort was very painted, but it was good enough to clarify for me that truth is critical for clear thought and sacred to me. Following that moment, I bounced among religions and addresses and ambled between research and university work for 15 years in near poverty. And that was okay. Eventually, I found another truth, though, that I might embrace some economic truth before I land homeless on the street. As I bent to maturity, I rarely considered that my grasp on truth might quake in the absence of safety. Since I always felt safe in a life that many saw as risky. As I watch the world now, it seems that more people are willing to live in an absence of truth to preserve their expectation of safety. Convenient consumption soothes the curiosity about the cost of dubious behavior. And that may be the primary question of this era. How much safety will we risk to demand truth from people who are in a position to know truth, to make truth, and to share truth transparently? How do we choose the useful questions when the volume of information and answer is a thrust at each of us and our senses with the intensity of a fire hose? is too much information. So I consider seeking truth to be sacred work, and I aspire to demand it even when it overwhelms me. I'd like to promote myself as a bright light today, abandoning safe behaviors for high causes, sharing privilege with others. More recently, however, I concentrate my truth quest on a narrow aspect of my sacred truth, the safety of my family and friends. I even balance my demand for sacred truth with safety. And I'm willing to concede that I hold sacred and tremble at the thought of losing the safety of our American economy. I'm no hero, and no longer eschew safety for curiosity. I'm not at ease with this sacred yet, but nothing else seems wise to me now. Peace. And now, will you please sing the words on the monitor as David plays For the Beauty of the Earth.
Some use the word sacred to describe religious doctrines. But as a Unitarian Universalist, I think of the sacred as something valued with great respect, something precious in a very personal way. The experience of observing the changing seasons is sacred to me. This spring, I have deliberately watched the daily changes in the trees and plants in my yard as the buds have progressed into leaves or flower blossoms. I realize this is merely a matter of science, but the process feels miraculous to me, and I consider my opportunities to observe nature sacred. Likewise, I consider gazing at the starscape to be a sacred experience. The upper part of my driveway allows me an unobstructed view of the sky on clear nights. I like to stare at a particular star until I can detect the various colors of the star's gases. Thanks to Robert Jastrow, we know that there are red giants and white dwarfs, but a quick glance at the starscape doesn't yield the magical experience that I consider sacred. My younger brother was a very kind-hearted person. I consider the physical gifts he gave me during his short life sacred, because seeing them fills me with a sense of his warmth and compassion. It's my memories of the unique role he played in my life for 25 years that is sacred to me. And I love to have objects in my home that remind me of him. I consider voting to be sacred. I feel a sense of oneness and connection with other voters and with the polling volunteers when I practice this right of citizenship. Struggles to establish and protect the right to vote have always existed in this country. Disenfranchisement efforts continue, as we saw in Wisconsin last week, where people risked their health to stand in long lines at reduced numbers of polling stations. For some people, there are sacred places. While I resonate more with sacred experiences and sacred memories, I have had an experience in a place that made me think that it was indeed a sacred place. One day, while on my way to buy theater tickets at the Hartke Theater's box office on the Catholic University campus, I paused to look at the Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. It's a beautiful building with a blue and gold tiled dome that I had seen from a distance many times. But approaching it on foot, I paused to read the engraved quotations on the outside of the building. I was not raised in the Catholic Church, much to the horror of my mother's Irish Catholic family, and I could not relate to the dogmatic messages I was reading. Even though I lived at the time in an apartment that was walking distance from the basilica, I had never been inside, so I walked in. I remember being in a wide open space with a beautiful floor and an extremely high ceiling as I wandered around with other quiet tourists. There were many alcoves with statues and more engraved quotes. None of the quotes were about love, kindness, or generosity of spirit, and I could not relate to anything I read. But as I entered each apse, I was nevertheless overcome by an otherworldly experience of awe that nearly brought tears to my eyes. I had a physical and a spiritual experience that I could not ignore, despite my skepticism. My body felt so light, as though it was disappearing. And even though the room was quiet, I seemed aware of the echoes of beautiful harmonic singing. As I walked from alcove to alcove, I felt as though I was gliding, as though I was high, and I could not escape an awareness that I was in a sacred place. Many years later, while staying in Larne, Wales, I toured the graveyard at St. Martin's Church. My tour guide said that the church was built on the site that had been used by Druids for their sacred rituals. He said that this was the custom of the Catholic Church, to build on ground considered to have been hallowed by previous users. So when I consider what is sacred to me, I find myself thinking of many experiences and people that are precious to me and that fill me with a sense of gratitude. So I guess, to me, feeling appreciative is sacred. Now we will hear David Chapman play For All That Is Our Life. The lyrics will appear on screen for us to sing at home, but please do not unmute.
Hello, everyone. I was asked to reflect on the sacred, and I considered what I would hold up as a particularly sacred object. And to me, the sacred is often unspoken, and there are so many obvious things in my life I could have chosen, such as my cello, but I kept coming back to a glass that was given to me by a friend just 2 months ago. And I had to ask myself, why something so new in my life over other cherished items that have been with me for years, such as my cello, which of course is beloved and sacred to me. It goes without saying. But the glass kept coming back to me. The story of the glass is as follows. I was chatting with a man of the couple I'm friends with who had invited me to dinner to celebrate a son's birthday just 2 months ago, when this glass on the shelf caught my eye, and I asked him about it. He'd obtained the glass from Seven Locks Brewery, a local brewery that names its beers after places and events unique to Montgomery County, Maryland, where I grew up. One of the beers is named Surrender Dorothy. Here's the glass that I saw. I have behind in it a white cloth so you can better read what it says. It says Surrender Dorothy, and beneath it you can see the spires of the Mormon Tabernacle, which is familiar to anybody who has traveled westward on the outer loop of the Beltway in Maryland. The graffiti obviously the glass references the graffiti that was repeatedly written on the railroad bridge from which one could view the Mormon temple in the 70s. This glass evoked warm memories, many warm memories, which included riding with my mother in the car and the delight and humor shared every time we saw that graffiti at that point before passing under the bridge where the Mormon temple came into view, all through the years as I was growing up. In the moment, I exclaimed to my friend about the glass and remembering my mother and I enjoying that graffiti and moment together. It was just an ordinary moment that just lives on. Other memories arose that remained unspoken. The many outings mother and I shared within a few miles of home, walks along the C&O Canal, the old locks and the lock houses, Great Falls and the museum there. I recalled adventures with friends, but also adventures alone, exploring the woods, biking for many miles along the towpath out into the countryside. A favorite outing my mother and I enjoyed together was to drive out and hike up Sugarloaf Mountain in western Montgomery County, and then eat a hearty country meal at a restaurant in Urbana, Maryland called the Peter Pan Inn. It was an enchanting place where peacocks roamed the yard. My mother imparted to me a love for adventure and simple pleasures, an ability to recognize and cultivate deep, lasting friendships. Both my mother and father instilled in me a sense of self-worth and confidence that might have been life-saving at certain times in my life, some perhaps not so long ago. The glass also evoked memories made just weeks ago, memories of adventures with friends in some of these same places. As old and new blended together in the glass, I beheld a bridge from the past to the present and into the future, a river and a bridge, the beloved never ending, as new memories flowing together with the older ones strengthen and guide me forward. Such memories and values guided me to the community that is home in Greenbelt, Maryland, and to wonderful friends here. Then there's Dorothy herself in The Wizard of Oz, and the story itself, that story so American, the timeless movie shared and loved among so many families, including mine, every few years, a sacrament in itself, and a patriotic one too. In one scene you might remember, the wizard assures Dorothy of her return to the land of E pluribus unum, using our country's original motto, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one. It is on the Great Seal of the United States, first used in 1782, and it was used during the Revolutionary War as a motto and rallying cry. It has appeared on various coins dating back to 1786. What a beautiful ideal to which our country can aspire, a bright beacon from the past to guide us all through this dark, divided time into a brighter future. This motto, so specific to America, so descriptive, existed long before the presumptuous "In God We Trust" was imposed in 1956, a product of the McCarthy era and the so-called Red Scare. All this in a glass, shared in a few moments with my friend hosting the party. I didn't mention to him the many other memories the glass evoked. They all went unspoken. There wasn't time, but it was all just in a moment they came back to me and came alive within the glass. And yet, even though they were unspoken, he must have recognized the depth of it all, the meaning, because at that point, he picked up the glass and he gave it to me. So thus the glass came to me as a gift of friendship. So I cherish the glass as if I'd had it for years. The glass invokes a bridge between past, present, and future, whimsical yet deep, a magic glass of memories past and present, and memories yet to be made, with ancestors, friends, community, and places loved. All are here. Nobody is really gone. This glass is always full of a river flowing, a bridge, connecting memories, places, and ancestors. It is a potent brew. The tune I played earlier, Country Gardens, is one of my mother whistled casually, sometimes several times a day, without really thinking of it. It was always in her head. It was part of her. So I grew up with this tune, Country Gardens. For some time after she died, though, I couldn't listen to the tune or hear it without feeling the loss, much less play it. But now I know the fun and joy and life in the tune, and that my mother imparted to me, and that it reminds me that my mother never left. So in this time of quarantine at home, more than ever, the glass sustains me. It lights the darker moments and reminds me that I can click my heels anytime and be with what, where, and whom I love for guidance, strength, perspective, the joy at hand, and the long view. The memories give me strength and guidance towards a future, all the brighter for them. I am reminded that my home itself is a retreat and place of peace, adventure, and love. Last but not least, by showing the wicked witches intimidating but desperate threat, the glass reminds us all that Dorothy never surrendered. Thank you.
Our worship services help us to think more broadly about different ways to recognize things of worth. The work that we do in living out our Unitarian Universalist values within our congregation and in the world is only possible through the generosity of our members and friends. As we hear David Chapman play The Oneness of Everything by Jim Scott, we will accept the offering. This Sunday's offering will be received using our Breeze online donation page, or it can be mailed to the church, or you can choose to text the amount of your donation to 301 321 7215. Now for our closing words, each of us, beginning with Cary, will share words for closing.
Thank all for more positive words than I had today. My closing words are that pure thinking, fed by sacred truth, will be necessary for the work that we don't even know is coming. I'm finding it necessary to embrace the slower pace that we've had to embrace and accept my need to take care of myself and my friends and my family.
Many experiences and people that are precious to me fill me with a sacred sense of gratitude.
Old new memories blend together and into the future, sometimes as a bridge, sometimes as a river. The beloved very much alive, giving guidance and strength, always there within oneself. Now I invite you to join us and sing Spirit of Life together from your homes.
Now I will extinguish the chalice. And Diana will play her cello for us, playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow by Harold Arden.